morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Don't give me copyright flag though.
No. You can cut this out.
I sounded like a zombie.
Oh.
Just.
Yeah, in order to grow, you gotta have like some kind of goals.
Boom. We're all the way live.
We made it.
What's up, man?
How's it going, brother?
Good.
It's been a while.
Yeah, man. Let me just roll off this intro and we'll jump right in.
All right, let's get it.
What's up? Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Whatever time you're listening in, wherever you're listening from. This is I Will Not Lose podcast, where we set out to learn that everything is learned from failure. We must recognize it as one step closer to success. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here right now. Let's take a moment to be present and recognize that it's now, right now. Whether your right now is working, running, driving, flying, whatever, be thankful we're alive, baby.
Let's go.
Failure is frightening, but as Winston Churchill reminds us, success is all about going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. This is I Will Not Lose podcast. Let's jump right in. We're joined here with Alani Jimenez, known by many, many more as Alani J, character artist. How's it going?
Brother, I'm delighted to be here, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I last hung out with you, man. And I know that it was such amazing experiences that we went through, you know, going through the steps to get to where we are today.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're talking years. It's definitely been a break.
Yeah, dude. I can say that you are one of the people that has inspired a lot of the mannerisms that I have for different types of facets of my business. Just your dedication, your type of drive, you know, and your preparation.
Yeah.
You know, you're always ready to dive in and talk to people about what it is you do. So I'm thankful, and I'm ready to talk to you about what I do.
Definitely. Well, thank you for the kind words and inspiring and the mannerisms and stuff, and set out with business. We have a past with your original business was in design and graphic design, commercial, a little bit of web and print.
Yep, you got it. Graphic design. I'm the proud owner of Alani Graphics, and it is still alive today. I still do graphic design, mostly driven with the power of caricature. So I realized that I got into graphic design because I loved art and because I loved computers. So it just getting into caricature nowadays, the way I have been, you know, so deep into the caricature world that now I can combine both.
Absolutely. Well, you've definitely been focused with the characters. You boast fastest character artist in the world. You know, we'll get into that story in a second, but you're highly followed, 2.2 million followers on YouTube, just about as many on Facebook, 600,000 on Instagram. So you got in the lane of just doing, why don't you tell a bit about how you did that?
I feel that the people around me, the people who trained me and worked next to me, or that I worked next to, were a little bit of an example, the models that I would follow as I grow in this caricature industry, which I got into 19 years ago now. And happy to say that, you know, even now they are big names in caricatures that have changed the way that the next generations of caricature artists would be trained, and the way that they would portray the artwork itself to the world as an industry.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How much of that has moved to digital? Do people do like in Procreate or something like that, or on an iPad characters?
It's interesting you say that. It's very difficult to transfer the knowledge from traditional caricature and digital, and that's mainly due to the stylus or the Apple Pencil or whatever it is you use to draw. I can say that I can, you have the knowledge, but the movement, the pressure, the strokes that you would take are a little bit different based on the markers. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I developed a brush for Procreate that is for caricaturing, that behaves precisely like what you would want for a marker in traditional to perform like. So that is actually one of the things on my website that people can purchase right now. And, for less than $5 and be able to have that tool that they can use for their gigs and everything and make, as much money as they want with digital caricatures, which is a highly sought after, I wouldn't say it's like an industry, part of the industry of caricatures, where, people hire artists to come out to their special events and draw the family members and the guests of the event.
Yeah, and it's nice to have something tactile that you can leave with you, like if you do the pen and pad. You know?
That's the other part of it for sure. That's the traditional where you can actually draw with a marker on paper, and that way they can actually take it with them. The other part of it is the digital caricature, where you take the pen and stylus that you would use it on your iPad or on your Cintiq, depending on what you're using. You would then print that and have that have the guests take that with them.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's an interesting world, but I can say that a lot of it, since I developed that, what I call Alani J marker brush. If you look it up on Google, you can find it. You are able to take that and just draw as if you're drawing with a marker. And that's, it feels the same. The width and the pressure that you apply, where you apply it, it responds like the marker. And it's changed a lot of artists' workflow.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you found a problem and you solved it, Yeah.
I'm very thankful that there's certain things that I've been able to do with some of the experience that I've acquired, but it's all due to the demand. Yeah, if people are in need of something, I try to be the helpful person and come up with a solution. Even if it has to do with getting as an artist and getting better, you can become faster. You can become how to become better. I've actually a workflow that I want to later on mention, and it has to do with repetition, but it has to do with intentional repetition. And it's something that I later, after many years of doing caricatures, that I found out that it needed to take place. And if I would have done it way back when, I would have been a totally different artist now.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's an interesting workflow that I have developed, and that will be put into a book form and also a course. So stay tuned for that.
There you go.
Yeah,
shameless plug. So do you feel like I don't want to say wasted time, like you said you would have been a completely different artist. Do you feel like it was too late, or the fact that it's spawning off into a book and this other stuff? Do you think you would have had the knowledge to turn it into those other forms of mediums if, in your 20s you were adapting that style? Or?
Well, it's part of becoming a better artist. It actually, the method that I have going, that I have put together, has not to do with just caricatures. It has to do with any art form, in fact. And you can attack whatever it is you do with this for the reasons of betterment and the ways that you can create something more efficiently. So as to say, okay, yeah, you can draw fast, but you could also draw very fast and still be slow. And not many people would understand that until you're like right there watching it. Okay, you can draw an eyebrow. Let me just say that. You can zigzag all the way down to the end, or you can just go, 2 marks or 1 mark and be more efficient and therefore faster.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like speed running. That makes sense. Like you find little ways to chip off and be better. That's a big thing my listeners are all into, and the theme of the podcast, when we talk about reframing failure and looking at how you can incrementally get better. It's always people think you got lucky. And at 2.2 million subscribers, there's no room for luck. There was a lot of focused and challenging things to go along that way, So
what can I say about the growth on social media? It has been quite the long road. People believe that I started, maybe a year ago to post my content, but in reality, it was like since 2012, and that we're talking about 12 years now. So. It's been a while. I've been around a while. Just the focus and has changed as the years go, but also the social media platforms have changed. Where it's changed so fast. Where Instagram used to be for photos only, and now it has videos and even additional photos, not just the one, not even squared, also rectangle and all this stuff. But just a matter of learning to use the platforms is one of the reasons where it took me a while to adapt, and I wasn't attacking it as a business. I was just thinking, oh, this is fun because people surely want to see my work because I'm good, And at the beginning, I really wasn't all that good, but I did draw things quickly. And that draws people, coincidentally, over to me because they want to see things done, in a quick fashion, even though it may or may not be just like the person is a cartoony and stylized way, which is cool, and having it done quickly, it draws people over to me. So that brings people my way.
So how much of it after you won and we'll talk about the championship and the road to world fastest, but was that, first off, how much of your following came after that, or what did that do for your boost and engagement?
I'm glad you mentioned that in that way, because I knew that I was fairly quick compared to some of my peers that would work around me. At the beginning, I remember being the slowest. I know that I tried to do certain things and I would mess up, but I was not thinking about, I messed up. I would just work those mistakes into something that was actually part of the drawing. So it's as if I'm masking the mistakes so that it would look a certain way. And in doing all these things, I would see my peers just draw so fast, just knock them one after the other. And I was so inspired, Well, during that same time, I would watch them so intently then that I determined and that I realized that there were certain inefficiencies. Even through their speed, they were doing things in a way that would actually take longer just because their order of operations was different than what I was thinking, and that could have been a little better. And eventually, I would take those, not only my failures but also other people's mistakes, and approach to things, and I would develop my own, and that's where we have gotten to this point now where just remembering all of those new ways of approaching it and trying to train my hand over again, sort of detrained, went back on what I knew when I was trained so that I can follow an order that I developed.
New way.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. So how intentional was it to become the world's fastest? Did you set out and say, this is what I'm going to do and train for that? What was that like?
Oh, man. I did not know that title existed until maybe 5 years into my career, that, there's something called ISCA, which is the International Society of Caricature Artists. And they do contests of all kinds for different categories and and is the international convention at which they have all the artists come in and they change the location each year. They come into this one location and we all compete on an all-out war to be the best at each of the categories. And so when that took place, that I realized that there was such a thing, I started to be a little bit more lively with the work of character and a little bit more intentional. Sometimes when you do certain things so many times that you believe you're so good at it, and then you see someone else do it a different way and you're like, oh my God, that's even better.
Absolutely.
That realization right there would really stick. And through those processes, I realized that I can do the same thing for social media where, oh, okay, well, if I'm learning this way, then I might as well look at other creators that are doing something similar to me. And okay, well, if they're doing that, then maybe I can adapt it. How can I adapt it to my world? So, as to say, you're not stealing the style, you're stealing mainly the flow so that you can use it in a way that would look like it was meant to be for your craft.
Right.
So I remember before I won World's Fastest, I looked at, okay, if I'm fast, let's be as fast as we could. So I focused on those little details of being as efficient as I can. Then, and I would participate, in the conventions and wouldn't quite get it. So I actually, had videos of me doing the work that the way I would do it, and as efficiently as I could. And I didn't quite hit that mark of being world's fastest, like the first place. I got, third and second place, but not first place yet. And so I asked, the world's fastest, how are you getting people off the chair so fast? And so he gave me that one tip that took me over that hump, which was a millisecond of something so simple, and that was the secret to get me to the next step. And so there's one thing that you can do if you really feel defeated, and you don't know how to do certain, like what it is that is taking you to the next step. You're probably a knock away, Yeah. Just knock, go to that door of the person or company that you feel can take you to the next step and ask questions. They don't, the people who want to help will always be kind, and especially when you're colleagues and things like that. And I'm very thankful, shout out to Steve Doris for that. He gave me that one tip, that, got me over that hump, which eventually allowed me to get to world's fastest caricaturist.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane. It's something so simple, and what I realized is everything counts. And we were talking about this where, you're streamlining each part of the process. How can you streamline moving this up? Well, you get closer. You get closer so that you can actually get to it. You don't have to, or you could just have your hand on it. Now you could just move your fingers, and just like that, those little milliseconds that you're actually, cutting down, you're becoming faster as a result.
Yeah.
So
you have a good understanding of the whole process. The way the human brain works with mastery, you get to a point in the beginning, like even with learning a language, where first you're learning the syllables and then you start to put together words. Like you're not writing essays yet. Like
Correct.
you can have a conversation and speak sentences without being able to put together an essay. But as you go further and further, you can now analyze the process while you're doing it. Like you're not using your brain to learn that part, but it takes a mastery of that whole process, or like you said, what are you doing a whole lot? When I'm editing the podcast, it takes 2 buttons to erase time between parts when I'm making clips. And instead of holding shift and hitting delete, I programmed it to 1 key and now it's just boom. But that's half the buttons that you're pushing. You got to look at it like that.
Yes.
Like little tiny bits can be big bits of progress. You know, it's not all about slow. Just because it takes long doesn't mean the process has to be boring and slow the whole time. Like every time you level up along the way, like that's the awesome part about progress and even failure. You know, you level up, you learn something. It's like, oh, you know, you go into battle thinking you know absolutely everything, and then you see something happen, you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Let me shift.
Yes. You pivot. And that's one thing that I learned through the growth of social media is you want to, when you are going in a certain route and you feel like there's just not enough for you to get over the hump, you want to pivot and into something that you're super more knowledgeable about or super focused on, passionate about.
Right.
And I feel that going fast is, you know, something that I've learned through other artists, which I, you know, have seen people draw a full color face and body in like 2-3 minutes, and sometimes less. And I just don't understand how that would work at the beginning. And now I'm just like, oh, okay. It's a process that you get used to so heavily that you don't have to think about it. Because ultimately what we stop to do is what? Think.
Yeah, hesitate.
Mind you, we think how many thoughts per minute, per second?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, thousands. And so so even if we think so fast, if that's slowing us down, then that means we need to not think. So we need to be so ready, so used to the motion that we just do it. And in fact, that's the way martial arts works, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. All sorts of training.
Yeah.
Wrestling, any of the martial arts, you know, we talk about how many times you drill it and you drill it with intention. It's funny, this whole time that you're talking about doing things over and repetition, I was comparing it to jujitsu. Like, you know, I was like this whole time I'm thinking about that. But yeah, you, even as you go higher in the belts, like I said, putting the sentences together, you know, as you go higher in the belts, you know, by the time you're purple belt, brown belt, you know, you're learning sentences while you're talking, like while you're rolling. Whereas in the beginning, when you roll, you're just trying to stay alive. Like you're just focused on whatever's right in front of you. You're not thinking 3 moves down if he's going to do this. But I like the process of putting everything together. And you apply that, the same thing you can apply in art, you apply to life and to business. It's, you know, even just the cohesion of how everything has to relate together applies completely to business, you know?
I think about whatever it is I try and do, you know, in this art world and this business world, social media and so on, the way a tree would grow, you know, there has to be roots first for it, you know, a base for that tree to grow. And so if you're not tackling the basics heavily, you know, and realizing and making adjustments there that you can then use to grow, you're not working on the right things. Mind you, you know, just like I tell my peers, where let's just say I want to train somebody to go quickly, I actually do tell them to go slower because I want them to feel the control of what it is like to do that motion. And then once they have that motion, the obvious thing to do is to go faster. You know, the next step would be to go a little bit, you know, so not only are you more efficient, now you're extra efficient, just go left to right. And you're able to do that quickly. Now you're able to control the muscles in your hand to do that. Now we're getting to an entirely different level that you can actually apply towards painting. You can apply it for, you know, applying
like a camera.
A wall. I mean,
videography, like holding the camera, you know, if you practice the movements, you know, I used to carry my camera around and just film, just practice tracking things, cars going by, things like that. You know, you get used to moving that camera without thinking, and then you can have more of a vision on where it's going. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely control the gimbal different now than when I did 5 years ago. Like,
we expected it to just do its own thing at one point, right? Like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so good, it's gonna be so steady, and we thought that it was the machine, but it isn't. It's the actual user, isn't it?
yeah, no, there's a lot. You could tell the difference between it. Like, I remember when I first picked it up, it doesn't feel as steady as you get used to it. You get used to the weight, but that's amazing. You know, you don't realize how many things go into drilling in practice. Like, you know you need 10,000 hours to do something, but it's also amazing that you're able to split the time up and think, okay, I'm going to set a camera up. And how do you get the people to agree, or do people sign a waiver?
I had people signing a waiver for a long time, these past couple of years. It became a time consumption, you know, from the craft and the, you know, production side of things, where, you know, we would have to wait for them to finish. And if they didn't want to do it, then we would just not film their face in it. No, we would just focus in on the caricature itself, because my art, I can record all I want.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, but, you know, having waiver is good. Now I just ask on camera, hey, are you guys okay with me recording? And if you would, you know, and I put it on social media, is that cool? You know, and so, you know, that's just a little bit of, you know, it's another way of streamlining, right, the whole process, where, you know, I'm recording on camera. Hey, if they don't want to be recorded, they don't want to be posted, ultimately, I start over, I point the camera towards the caricature itself, the piece of paper, and just record the artwork, the process.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It brings me to the question, how many people know you're following before they agree and just think, oh, yeah, you can post it on social media.
Right.
Then you tag them in it and there's 70,000 views.
It's insane. Yeah, no, and actually there has, in the past 5-6 years, is when I've gotten the most, like, oh, I know you. I saw you on Facebook. I saw you on TikTok. Oh, that's the guy from YouTube. Oh, yo, I follow you on Instagram. And it's just insane. I still can't believe that that's a thing. Like, awesome. I'm so happy. Thank you. I'm glad that you supported me, you know, and you're coming out here and people recognize the logo and things. It's exciting. It's, you know, it's something totally new for me. I, you know, have always, you know, felt awesome about, like, look at me, because I do cool stuff, you know, as an artist, and also because the more eyes on what I'm doing, the more, you know, business I would get, you know, presumably, right? And so ultimately, so that I can provide to the family. That was the main drive, you know, is to help those who helped me get to where I am today. So, you know, making money is a thing, but, you know, the more attention that I would have for, you know, the artwork, and that's where I realized that I needed to just get better at art. You know, it couldn't just be the same thing at one, you know, point or another, even if it's just that one or two people that say, oh, he's just drawing the same face, you know, and just changing some of the things. And I was just like, I don't want people to just, you know, I don't want my art to look like that. You know, I want my art to be better, to be, you know, more customized, and, you know, look like the people. And of course, that's what caricature is like. We have to get that likeness. We have to get, you know, the cartoony aspect, the funny aspect, you know, and do it in a timely fashion, because there's a line. Yeah. You know, there's a line that people, you know, who want to get drawn, who want to get that experience, you know, of being together in their caricature and starting a family tradition. And so, you know, I did it not only for my family at that point, when I realized that I could just draw someone quickly and still capture likeness, then I knew I was at a certain level that I can, you know, really create something special for those who would visit and who would get a caricature done. So starting new traditions, you don't want to take too long because there's other things to do. There's food that they got to get, and, games that the kids want to do before they get impatient. I got to draw the kids first. And, it's been a learning curve for a lot of reasons, and every little thing has a great power. And that has a lot to do with it being part of the basics. When you really stress the basics, you're building, you're creating something that is solid, that you're mastering. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about thought and how many thoughts we have, but the more important thing for me, which is where I mentioned that I encourage doing things slowly at first, is because I want the memory to be built. And that's the basic for me, is the bare minimum. You want to increase your memory power. So doing something slower will get you that motion, those muscles to, be to where they need to be. There's two types of memory, isn't there? The mind mm-hmm. and the muscle memory. So, we're training both at that point, and that way you have a solid understanding in less time, which then builds your normal memory, not only for that motion, but for everything else. So, having ideas. Ever thought of an idea and you're just thinking, oh man, this would be awesome. But then when you get to the computer, you kind of forget some of it. It doesn't come out quite like that mm-hmm. initial thought, which you thought it was just amazing. Mm-hmm. That's the thing right there, where mm-hmm. we're talking about memory. If you can just harness the power of memory, you really don't have to do as much. You can just remember it more. And all you have to do is then put it together directly from the mind.
Sick, man. Sick.
And
I'm thinking of skateboarders. I'm thinking of all sorts of people that have that fluidity that you go, and that's always been, attractive. But it's interesting. I had to ask. I want to kind of shift gears, but I saw you had posted something about like what you focused on before you focused on speed, and you do these like wacky faces with like the chin, like they're like distorted. I'll have you send me one and I'll put it up on the YouTube video.
I gotta go back into and check that out too, because sometimes you do some things and you do it for a period of time and then something else comes along and you just that's another shiny toy you want to go and practice that then. And so that's interesting you mentioned that, but I did want to mention someone that is really taking the memory game to an entirely different level, and I'm sure you've heard of him because we're talking about a musician, a freestyle artist called Harry Mack. I
don't know Harry Mack.
Oh my God,
my listeners are gonna get pissed at me. They were mad with him.
Oh my God. So here's the thing, Harry Mack basically takes 3 words from the people that he's, doing an interview with, or, usually on the website, Omegle, he would do these, and he has his camera set up and everything. He does freestyle based on the 3 words that they give.
Okay.
But he also goes into a tangent on the word itself. He gives detail about that word. And he rhymes it, and he does not forget the other 2 words. Sometimes it's more than 3 words, and so on. So I find it interesting, that, a freestyler is really, really thriving. Right now, he's, as far as I know, the best freestyler on the planet, because he literally remembers what he's seeing and uses it, and remembers how they reacted and uses it in the freestyle and intertwines it with the flow, with their words that they provided. And that's powerful in that we're talking about memory, because you can apply that to so many things, because that's what we are. We're human. And if we can't remember something, then what's the point? We're not really living. And that's another reason why people get a caricature done, is because of memory. They want to, as soon as they see that caricature, they just like remember the time when they sat down and had that experience with the family, had that experience with their significant other, for themselves. And they, it's a nostalgic thing. Also, it's like obviously a comedy, comedic effect where people come in, they have the caricature on the living room. Now we're talking about it's an icebreaker. Something
people ask about it.
Exactly. Something that they can immediately, talk about and just be comfortable, and give more detail about it and move on to the next thing from there, which is just amazing to me.
Definitely. You drew one of the ones in my office over there. I don't know if you saw them when we came in.
I didn't see it.
I have the one, I think you drew Jaden, or you drew me or Jaden. One of them. I have a couple different artists up there as I got my family together, but I hang the caricature artists. It's a level of fun, and I think what a lot of people want, everybody wants to be a content creator. And like you said, I'm glad you were honest. It feels good when people say I saw this or this inspired me, but they don't see the work that comes with it. They don't see, how you would call the
work it took to get there.
The work it took with the passion that you have to have for it, but the one thing that people do want to emulate is the funness, the fact that we can be here in t-shirts and talk about creating memories and doing so. Like you said, it is something that's cool. I think all content creators, I was just at online seminar and they were talking about how every content creator should be rich, and it was all sorts of tools for people to be able to monetize and different ways to support artists. Some of the greatest artists aren't the best salesmen, and they don't have as much work as you'd think they'd have,
Yes.
Maybe there's tons of people that have been doing that freestyle stuff.
Right.
There's just no cameras on them. I don't know. But
That's true. I have seen some amazing artists that are not getting recognition, or people just don't know enough. Not enough people know about them, although they are incredible, breathtaking artwork and everything. And I find that it is all about the basics. When it comes to business, you have to be able to put the word out there without being shy. Stepping out of your comfort zones is going to take you to places that you've never been. Unless you step out the door outside, there's no way you could have an experience of having been outside and be able to go with the motions, be able to, wear a raincoat, when it's raining, or a coat when it's cold, and so on, because you didn't know. So this is where it actually comes together, where we talk about all of the basics. To me, memory is the basic. You increase your memory and you can create anything you want, because you're solidifying a base that will help you in the long run, and it will only get better because you're using it. Where we talk about, I'm just gonna check out these videos for like 5 minutes, that 5 minutes that you spend on your phone scrolling is actually diminishing your memory. Ever heard about that?
I believe it.
I recently heard something about digital dementia. You heard something about that, where we're in an era that our attention span is so low that even 20 seconds is the most attention that somebody can give you out of the younger generations, right? And that has to do with memory, because just as you go like this, I saw this video, okay, blah, blah. By the time you scroll twice, you're already forgetting what you saw at the very beginning within that 5 minutes. So if you continue to practice forgetting, you're going to increase your memory at forgetting.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I never heard that, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yes.
I just never heard it. I never looked at it like that. I'm going to take maybe I'll make a separate account just for the podcast clips, because people consume the clips and it gets visibility to people listening to the podcast. But I could use a break from social, at least from my own, or do post and ghost, write out a bunch of content, post it, but not, only engage to that. It's when I'm scrolling and looking at other people's stuff and commenting on dumb stuff, and they're talking about, you walk into a room and there's a chicken, a horse, and a giraffe, how many legs are on the table from the bed. God. And like, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? But it's nice. Like when I have a video rendering, like I was working on cutting clips earlier, and
I see.
It'll take 3 minutes. So
you take that time to jump on social media and, check things out, how things are going and everything.
Well, I find myself, if I do go and check the social media, I'll be like, why am I doing this? And I'll do like I have a little math game going that just adds numbers, and you do some multiplication and then just go back, and like it keeps adding while you're gone, and you try to figure out how much it's just something to distract where you're still exercising, you're still in that zone. You're not, because unless the computer dings, it'll be rendering 30 seconds and you'll be there 7 minutes on the phone. But
yes,
it's
Yeah, you just like anything else, you got to practice not getting distracted. Like your mind has to be able to tell you, just like the way you get used to in school. Sometimes you wake up before the alarm goes off. You got to be able to, train your mind to have the basic of, okay, 30 seconds. In 30 seconds you can set a clock for maybe the next 5 sessions, let's just say, of social media, and you do this intentionally first, right? So that you get used to it, so you can build that habit, so that by the time you're actually away from your clock, you're just, scrolling, and then your mind tells you, oh, it's 30 seconds. Oh, okay, I got to put it down. Intentionally do that, put it down, and that way your mind remembers, okay, and after 30 seconds of starting to scroll and not do much, put it down. It's a way of saying to yourself, okay, I got to take that next step of not get so distracted in that. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the other portion of this memory cycle and thought process is being bored. What happens when you're bored?
That's when the good ideas come.
What happens when you're showering? What happens when you're driving?
Yeah, when you're relaxed.
And that state is going to bring, if you practice being in that state of mind, you're now, your boredom becomes your fun zone, where you're actually like creating something in your mind. And because you've been building your memory, now all of a sudden you have an entire project in your mind that you can then execute as efficiently as it can be, because you know exactly what needs to be, because you remember it. Man, I love this stuff.
Bored. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Where's the camera? Practice being bored. Heard it from Alani J. That's great, man.
I can say, just going back to the social media aspect and how I won one of the world's fastest. I mean, man, that was such an incredible experience. But I attacked doing social media the most after I won world's fastest caricatures. I literally didn't want to put my videos up anywhere until I won world's fastest, because I felt that who am I? People are just gonna say, who are you? We don't know who you are, or what have you accomplished with these things that you're showing us? Why should I listen to you? And so for me, I felt that I needed to have a solid, what would you say, prize, a solid,
like
resume
accolades.
Accolades. Yeah, I love that. So that the credibility would be higher, and ultimately, I also didn't want to, so just take it back a step. My project was to promote my Instagrams as, the world's fastest caricaturist. And how would I do that unless I had the title? So that's where I, really focused on it, did the research for it so that I can get those basics, remember them long enough to then execute it efficiently. And that's what's been happening, thankfully. And we talked about building memory. So now we're going to just move on to something simple that comes from having that memory, and it's noticing. How would you create something like the other person that's succeeding? You know, for me, you know, just like, you know, when I started doing caricatures, I noticed those things that were just a little bit not as efficient as they could be to be able to put it into practice. So I noticed that, okay, this creator does it this way, but this creator does it this way, but they're both successful. So, you know, then you would create something for you that would emulate each of those. The same piece of content can be, you know, used for different styles of editing and of, you know, storytelling, you know, and the workflow on that. So, for example, Mr. Beast, just the one thing I've noticed about the first 3 seconds, you know, he says exactly what is happening, and it's something so impressive that they even put the captions at the bottom in the first 3 to 5 seconds of what is going to happen. And people stick around because it's so ridiculously amazing.
You have to see it. Yeah.
But what's interesting is because of our attention spans being so low, we have to continually remind the viewer that, later on we're going to da. And now for, you know, the process of this, and now, you know, we're talking about a step-by-step throughout, you know, a little bit of a step ladder. You know, we're going up the ladder and we're going to get to the prize at the top. And that workflow of catch their attention, you know, do the intro, and then, you know, basically tell the people who you are a little bit. You know, at the beginning, you have to kind of remind people who you are. Nowadays, you know, just put it in the bio, you know, but and people will know who you are. But ultimately, do the 3 seconds and then tell a story and keep reminding them, and then get to the prize. So that's one thing that I have found, that through caricatures, the big reveal and what people think of the caricature is the prize. And I thought initially that the prize would be to watch a world's fastest caricatures, which was my niche, you know, caricaturist and drawing them fast. The process of it coming together, because that, to me, that was my soul, which was to create every stroke intentionally and smoothly and efficiently. But what people thought about the caricature, and, you know, the way that they reacted to the caricature and the way they showed their emotions on camera of how they felt by seeing it, was even a bigger prize that I wasn't realizing that the viewers would want to see. So it was, once I learned this, I made sure that I kept each video as short as I could, which means, you know, drawing as fast as I could, and therefore the other processes I had to get better at. And then I was able to show that process and that delivery of the prize at the end as the cup, you know, the first place cup. Like, this is what you came here to see. The reaction to this. Here it is. And people just react. Oh man. People have even said that they're not even there to see the reaction. It doesn't matter to them. Some people don't care about that. Some people don't care about my intro. Some people say they skip before it gets to the intro, you know, which is a problem. So anyway, but seeing the process, now we're talking about, okay, that, you know, efficiency from one line to the next that I would try to, you know, have as my process is soothing and satisfying, which, you know, in the past few years, we know those have been major trends. Oddly satisfying, you know, and so smooth. And it calms you down. Huh?
I subscribed to that on Reddit. I was watching somebody vacuum.
Oh my God. It's just so soothing. Oh my God, look, it was dirty, now it's clean. Whoa. Amazing. I want that vacuum, you know, but sometimes it's just the way it's done. It's not the tool, but rather the art artistry and in fact the camera angle and everything. And that's the kind of video I also came across that allowed me to realize that, okay, people want to see the process, and that's where I thought was my niche. But really, it's a mixture of things now that I realize are within one section of a video, besides just the reaction and the process and the catchy 3-5 seconds at the beginning as the hook. So the combination of these is what makes content that really, captures the attention and keeps you watching, keeps you interested, so that you can finish the video and feel good about following that creator. So that's where I realized, okay, why are people going to follow us? Oh, okay, because they show the cool stuff, that is exclusive to that niche, that, you can only show mastery in something that you really care a lot about. Would you say that that's the most truth? For me, I care a lot about, people, and, I've used that focus to create my art in that way, so that I can portray, okay, the love I have for not only the people that I'm creating the artwork for, but also who I'm providing to through that art form is why I do this.
Yeah. No, I can relate with that. I agree.
Yeah.
It's like seeing people start businesses. I saw the data today. So many more people are starting businesses now, and whether it's a side hustle or just a full out business, but try to keep up on those sorts of trends to see how it goes. But being in service to business owners, but then even just why I started the podcast, it was never to be famous. I'm not, that'll come if I work, but this is a hobby, and I don't want to take the fun. I'm not ready to take the fun out of it yet, like having conversations that I would like to have. And people do listen to the long form content, it's almost a different market for people looking at the shorts.
Yeah.
It doesn't even necessarily mean they're going to go watch the whole episode, but there's people that aren't even watching us. They're listening to us on an audio platform. I think it's so cool to be able to be where you choose to listen to it. I don't watch my podcasts, but the analytics show a lot of people tune in. Now, whether they're watching and seeing our hand motions, or whether or not they're just listening, or they have it through a speaker, you can't really tell that through the analytics. But it's curious. You want to make, you want to almost please everybody, but it's either video or audio. You can only be good at one or the other.
That's interesting, because it really does. It really does show you that you are more advanced than the technology that you're using to get to where you want to go. So, I've noticed that the platforms that I'm using, I can do these things. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. Oh, what else can I do? And I keep searching, and to the point that I realize, oh my God, I can't, simply, which is supposed to be, crop this thing, so you start to hit walls when you're that hungry for information and able to remember what you know, and then use that to find out what you can't do and don't know. So I can tell you, I'm growing on social media because something we haven't mentioned, and this has to do with consistency. Oh man, that in itself will increase the likelihood that you're going to be more efficient at something, because you're then noticing. But that's the repetition of it all. That's what I'm trying to get at. The repetition, the consistent, I'm doing this right now. Like you mentioned, being in the present, you consciously do something so that you can commit it to memory. You get up in the morning, you go to the gym, you then go to work, and in that work, you do what you need to do, such as talk to people, sit them down, you run the transaction, you run the transaction with cash, and these processes would then create the consistency for that workflow. When it comes to social media, it's from the angle that you're pointing the camera to when you actually start being in front of the camera and executing what it is you need to do. Maybe we should use another, and creating, what you need to create, just use a little bit of different connotation on that. Now you're creating the habits that are going to serve as the basics to build upon. And this is something I haven't mentioned, that consistency should actually go all over your business. I'm not saying work every day forever. What I'm saying is realize the processes that you absolutely need to do those things to the best of your ability, do them consistently so you could get faster at it. You don't have to think about it as much, and ultimately create a platform. Now, mind you, that word platform is heavily used for the social media platforms, but the main platform that is your focus is you getting better at using what you have and putting blocks underneath you as the basics to pull yourself up.
Well said, man. Got a wealth of knowledge for content creators. I don't know if there's anything specific you want to say to people. You got a lot of eyes on you. It's the number one thing that kids want to be when they grow up, is what you do and what you've accomplished, so you definitely have to sit back and be grateful for that. But you have any closing words?
I'm very thankful to have gotten to where I am, but I know that there is a lot more to do. All I can say is, stay consistent. The more consistent you are, the easier it is for you to realize the additional things you could be doing. And your time opens up when you do things efficiently so that you can do more in your business or do more with your significant others. Have more time. You're basically shortening the time that it takes to do your work so that you can actually enjoy life and be in the moment, in the present.
That's an awesome goal for sure. Sure. Shout out your socials where people can follow you. And
my socials are Mr. Alani J. That's Mr. Alani J. That's on all social media. That goes from YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as Snapchat. So go check us out on all those social media. I post videos that are different on each of them. And I also have a subscriber for members only on 3 of them: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. And Instagram. So
Instagram,
4.
There you go.
So definitely go and subscribe and check out the content that we put out there that for exclusive content, check those out.
Be sure to check that out. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.
Don't lose.
Thank you for listening to another episode of I Will Not Lose podcast. To support the show, visit iwillnotlosepodcast.com. You can subscribe to your favorite podcast player, share the episode link, leave a comment. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. And if you're listening in and can't see the QR code for donation, go to tothedesigner.com/links, and there's instructions to donate up there. Thanks so much.